Hi my dear students, welcome to my biology class. We have learned up to fertilization and implantation in the previous session. When and where does fertilization take place in human female reproductive system? When both sperm and ovum reach at the ampullary isthmic junction of the fallopian tube, fertilization takes place there. It results in a single-celled structure called zygote. Then zygote starts to divide mitotically. It repeatedly divides. This process is called cleavage and it results in 2-celled, 4-celled, 8-celled, 16-celled, 32-celled stage structures, and the number of cell increases exponentially. The stage in between 8-celled and the 16-celled stage is called morula. The 64-celled stage is called the blastula. Finally, all cells will be rearranged as an outer layer with inner cell mass. That structure is called blastocyst. It is the structure at which the embryo gets embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. The process of embedding or attachment of the developing embryo or blastocyst in the inner lining of the uterus is called implantation. What happens after implantation? The next phase begins, that is gestation. So today we are going to learn about gestation and parturition. First of all, let's learn about gestation. Gestation is also known as pregnancy. The duration of gestation is approximately 9 months in human female. What is gestation? It is a condition of having a developing embryo or fetus in the womb of the mother. So let's begin from the structure blastocyst. Blastocyst has the outer layer. The outer layer is called trophoblast. It contains a group of cells called inner cell mass. Okay, the trophoblast would be differentiated as chorionic villi and its associated structure during the course of development. And the inner cell mass consists of specific type of stem cells. Stem cells. These stem cells are totipotent in nature. Each cell is totipotent. That means these cells would give rise to a complete organism with the all organ and organ system. So the inner cell mass would be differentiated as the embryo. The trophoblast of the blastocyst secrete lytic enzyme, and this lytic enzyme causes erosion of the endometrium of the uterus. And also the trophoblast give rise to finger-like outgrowths called chorionic villi. Then what happens? This chorionic villi and the uterine tissue become interdigitated. They would become one part. So it forms as a specific structure. The trophoblast covering secretes a specific hormone called HCG. Trophoblast covering secretes HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. The presence of human chorionic gonadotropin in the urine sample of a lady confirms the pregnancy or gestation in that woman. It is an indication of the implantation as it is produced by the trophoblast covering. At the same time, this HCG promotes or stimulates the corpus luteum to maintain over there to secrete more amount of progesterone. In the previous class, I have told you that progesterone is known as the pregnancy hormone. It is essential to maintain the pregnancy in women. This HCG also induces the cervical gland to secrete a mucus and forms a plug in the cervical canal, cervical plug or cervical mucus. The cervical plug or mucus is essential for the protection of the developing embryo inside the uterus. After the formation of the chorionic villi and the associated structure, the blastocyst would be developed into another structure called the gastrula by a process called gastrulation. Gastrulation is the process of development of three germinal layers such as the outer ectoderm, mesoderm, middle mesoderm and the innermost endoderm. So, the process of formation of these germinal layers is called gastrulation. So, what happens during this time? Rearrangement of cells take place inside the trophoblastic covering. That means the cells will be rearranged as the outer ectoderm, the middle mesoderm and the endoderm. What is the fate of these germinal layers? Different organs will be developed or originated from these germ layers. Then what would be the fate of each germinal layer? Then ectoderm, for example, the epidermis of the skin, hair, nails, inner lining of nasal chambers, buccal cavity, enamel of the teeth, external ear, auditory meatus, mammary gland, pineal gland, hypothalamus, central nervous system, nerves, etc. are formed from the ectoderm layer. The mesoderm, the middle layer, is the origin of connective tissues like tendon, ligament, etc. Notochord, heart, blood vessels, spleen, urinogenital systems, spleen, sclera, choroid and the iris of the eye and also adrenal glands. Then the endoderm, the middle ear, eustachian tube of the ear, epithelium of the larynx, trachea, bronchi and lungs, gallbladder, liver, pancreas, thyroid, parathyroid glands, etc. are developed from the endoderm. So, all organs are developed from these three germinal layers by a process called organogenesis. Organogenesis means formation of organs. Then let's study the fetal membranes that are formed during the embryonic stage. The fetal membranes are also known as extra-embryonic membranes. Extra-embryonic membranes. These are formed around the developing embryo. Those are first one chorion, next amnion, third allantois and fourth one yolk sac. The chorion is the outermost layer of the cell which forms around the embryo and it is formed from the trophoblast. Chorion forms chorionic villi and other fetal placental parts. The amnion is the next layer which is formed immediately around the embryo. There is a fluid in between the amnion and the developing embryo that is called amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid is a clear fluid which contains some fetal cells. The fetal cells are used for amniocentesis to identify the sex of the child by observing the chromosomal pattern of the cell. Then the third one, allantois. The allantois is formed from the embryonic gut, which is located near to the yolk sac. The allantois is a site of production of blood vessels, while the yolk sac is also formed from the gut of the embryo, but it does not contain yolk. It is a site of production of corpuscles. In the case of non-mammalian animals, the yolks are contained yolk, but in the case of mammals, there is no yolk. Instead of yolk, there is a clear fluid. These are the important fetal membranes formed around the developing embryo. Next, let's study about the most important part of the developing embryo, that is placenta. The placenta will develop in this region. Here you can observe the chorionic villi, the finger-like outgrowths that develop from the chorion. This would be differentiated into a disc-shaped tissue called placenta, which will connect the embryo, the developing embryo, with the maternal body. During the formation of the embryo, the chorionic villi and the uterine tissue become interdigitated and it becomes as a functional and structural unit that is called placenta. So placenta gives a physiological connection between the maternal body with the developing embryo or fetus. It means that the developing embryo gets nourishment and supporting materials from the maternal blood through this placenta. So placenta is a disc-shaped structure that is formed during this period. It is enriched with the blood vessels. It connects the fetus through a specific cord called umbilical cord. The umbilical cord contains arteries and veins through which the maternal blood can contribute the nutrients and other substances to the fetal blood. There is no mixing of the maternal blood with the fetal blood. So here the placenta acts as the structural and functional or the communication between the fetus and the maternal body. Next, let's study the functions of placenta. The first function is nutrition. The essential nutrients are provided to the developing fetus through the placenta from the maternal blood, such as fat, protein, glucose, etc. The next one, exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. That means the developing embryo requires a lot of oxygen. At the same time, it needs to eliminate the carbon dioxide. This is also facilitated by the placenta. The next one, transport or the elimination of the nitrogenous waste from the body of the developing fetus or embryo, that is excretion. The removal of nitrogen waste from the body of the fetus. The next one, it acts as a barrier. It does not allow the entry of pathogen and other foreign substances into the fetal body to a certain extent. So it acts as a barrier. But at the same time, it facilitates the transport of some essential materials like or essential substances like antibodies. Transport of antibodies. The antibodies are essential for the development of immunity system in the developing embryo. Next is the endocrine function of the placenta. The placenta acts as an endocrine gland as it secretes several hormones during the gestation period of pregnancy. The most important hormones are number 1, HCG. HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin. The next hormone, HPL. HPL, human placental lactogen. Next one, other important hormones such as estrogen, progestogen, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. developed in several folds in the maternal blood to support the embryonic growth, because these hormones are essential hormones for the development of the embryo, its body organs and its maturation. Not only these hormones but also some other important hormones increase in several folds in the maternal blood to support the growth of the embryo. So each hormone has specific function. HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, which is produced by the chorionic villi, and it stimulates the corpus luteum to maintain over there to secrete more amount of progesterone. Progesterone is a pregnancy supporting hormone. So that is stimulated by HCG. Then HPL, human placental lactogen, it stimulates the growth of the breast of the mother, so that the differentiation of the breast, that means more ducts and cells are formed, and it stimulates the growth of the mammary glands, that is human placental lactogen. Estrogen also help in the enlargement of the uterus and also the enlargement of ducts in the mammary glands. Along with the progesterone secreted by the corpus luteum, these progestogens are also supporting factors, supporting hormones of pregnancy. Cortisol reduces the stress of the mother. The prolactin is a hormone which is required for the production of the milk in the mammary gland. The mammary gland start to produce the milk by the end of the gestation period. Okay, then thyroxine. Thyroxine is one of the most important hormone which is required for the physical, mental development of the child. Out of all these hormones, the HCG and HPL are the real indicators of pregnancy. These hormones are found in the urine sample of the pregnant ladies. So that these are the indicators. Because these hormones are formed only during the pregnancy in women. Other than these hormones, a specific hormone, relaxin, is also secreted by the ovary at the late phase of the gestation period. It supports the delivery of the baby. That means it helps in parturition. Okay, so all these hormones have specific functions in the developing embryo, and these are very important for the fetal growth and its development. Then next, let's study about organogenesis. Organogenesis means formation of organs or tissues in the embryo. The gestation period is approximately 9 months. The 9 months is divided into 3 trimesters. Okay, 9 months. Trimester 1, trimester 2, and trimester 3. Each trimester consists of 3 months. 3 months is equal to 1 trimester. Now let's study what are the changes occur during the developmental stage in the embryo. After 1 month, the heartbeat is heard with the help of stethoscope, as heart is the first organ that is formed in the developing embryo. By the end of the 2nd month, the limbs and digits are formed in the embryo. By the end of the 1st trimester, that means by the end of the 3rd month, almost all organ systems are developed. For example, limbs and external genitalia are developed in the developing fetus or embryo. This is the most crucial period during the gestation, because this period the embryo is highly sensitive to antibiotics and drugs. And also as organ systems have been developing during this period, the mother has to take more care, and also then the child would get, the developing embryo would get appropriate quantity of nutrients and sufficient supply of other substances or factors. Then during the 5th month, Then movement of the fetus can be observed. Then appearance of fine hair on the head. By the end of second trimester, then by the end of second trimester means by the end of the 6th month, hair on the body can be observed. Eyelids separate and eyelashes are formed. Then by the 3rd trimester, that the fetus grow in size. Got it? So that means this time the fetus have got almost all organ system, and they grow in size, and it will be appeared as a normal baby or a normal fetus. So it grows in size during the last phase of the gestation. After the complete development of the fetus, it induces mild contractions in the uterus along with the placenta. These mild contractions are known as fetal ejection reflex. Fetal ejection reflex. It stimulates the release of a pituitary hormone named oxytocin. Oxytocin causes contraction of the uterine smooth muscles that are present in the myometrium of the uterus and causes mild to severe contraction, which leads to labor pain. It leads to discomfort and agony, that is totally known as labor pain. Then it causes the expulsion of the fully developed fetus from the body of from the womb of the mother. It is called parturition. What is parturition? The process of giving birth to a fully developed fetus or a child is called parturition. Soon after parturition, within 10 to 45 minutes, that the placenta and other associated structures inside the mother's womb will be eliminated. That is called afterbirth. I have told you that during the gestation period, the mother's mammary gland is differentiated and start to produce milk by the end of the gestation period. So the next process soon after the parturition is the lactation. In the mammary gland, the milk is produced with the help of prolactin, the hormone prolactin, and the first milk that is produced by the mammary gland of the mother is colostrum. Colostrum is very important for the infant's growth as it consists of proteins, sugars like lactose, and IgA, immunoglobulin A. It's an antibody, and several other factors are also present in the colostrum, which is essential for the neonate growth, the growth of the newborn baby. The child should be fed immediately after the birth with this colostrum, as it provides these essential nutrients and factors for the further growth of the infant. Lactation or breastfeeding during the initial period of the infant is very important, which is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy child. So today we have learned about gestation, parturition and lactation. I hope you have understood the topic well. With this, I conclude my session. Thank you and have nice moments.